This is the Crystal Chronicles, your Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia podcast, with Erolai, Kreese, and Mark, bringing you all your DFFOO news and talk. Welcome to Season 4, the LDBT era. Now let's start the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 147 of the Crystal Chronicles, your Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia Opera Omnia podcast, recorded this April 8th, 2021. It's going to be a long show. I'm Mark. I'm so glad that you've joined us for all your DFFOO news and talk. But I'm not alone. I'm here with my co-hosts. First, it's Arrow. Arrow, how you doing?
Doing great as always. I got a lot going on this weekend. I'm excited to go out and do some shopping that's very much needed. Anyway, how about you? Back to you.
Kreese is back with us from fancy family gatherings. Kreese, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Family gatherings were wonderful. I am ready for some downtime. I'm also way behind on DFFOO, even more than usual because of family gatherings. Do not have a lot of time to play, but I am here. I am exhausted, but I am excited to be back.
And we are joined by a special guest. It is Infamous Element. Infamous, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what your relationship to Final Fantasy and DFFOO is. First of all, welcome to the show.
All right. Thanks, Mike. I'm Infamous Element. But first, I just want to thank Arrow, Kreese, and yourself, Mark, for letting me join you guys today. So, thank you. I'm Infamous Element. I do stream, but I haven't streamed in a while. Been kind of hiatus for a little bit. But I am going to be coming back somewhat soon. I also do some YouTube, but mostly TCC challenges and extremes. And a couple other videos I like to create myself, but nothing too much lately. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Back over to you, Mark.
Well, thank you, Infamous, and make sure you check out Infamous Element and their YouTube channel and everything else. Hey, before we shoot to some ongoing stuff, big shout out to Raw Life for a sub and a gift sub, Daniel for a gift sub. Gerald Tricker for a sub, Wannabe and Blartanian for a sub as well. Blartanian also gifted a sub, and Taco with 5 subs, appreciate that, and also Zerathi for subs. That is 13 subs tonight. I have said if we get 50 subs before the Waka banner, I will pull on Waka, whom I hate with a passion. As much as I hate characters like Porum and Hope. So I was planning to skip on Waka, but if you all hate me enough, you can sub and make me pull with gems, because why the hell not? That's what gems are for making me use them. So hey, any follow up, Kreese? You've had some time to start the Divine Ramu boards, grinds, or anything else that you want to share in your week off. I know you were able to maybe pick up a couple characters as well.
So, in the week that we missed, I did pull for Celeste. I was forced to pity her LD. I mean, I've been trying to sing Celeste's praises. I think I pulled for her EX back when it first arrived, so I'm hoping it wasn't too much of a surprise that I ended up pulling for her again. Yeah, took off the mask is what Pikachu's saying. Anyways, what I was saying was, ended up pitying Celeste, sadly. Have not had a lot of time to play, as I said during the intro. But I've been trying to work on keeping up. I'm about 16 or 17 illusion boards in with Remu. Trying to make my progress through there, but it's been not as fast through as I'd hoped. Hopefully I'll be able to get at least most of the way through before it goes away in a few days. We'll see. Other than that, decided to skip Aerith, decided to skip Eald'narche, but we haven't gotten to Eald'narche yet. That's where I am with all of that right now.
Cool. Hey, well, there isn't a lot of news from last week to this week, but if you have missed out on the Garnet and Aranea costumes, which are two of my favorite costumes, one of those costumes is literally just the same character with a robe. The other costume is a completely different outfit. So the effort behind them, a little different, but I bought them both and have had them for a while. But if you missed them and you like those characters because you're a newer player, two of my favorite costumes. So that's really all the news. There's not a lot much else going on. There was maybe a new Chocobo panel, but no, that would have started last week. That was April 1st. So so let's talk about the couple events we have tonight. Maybe a little shorter of a show. It depends on how much Infamous Element's going to go into Eald'narche lore. I'm sure Mino's going to appreciate it. But it is Eald'narche's Lost Chapter, Ghosts of the Past. Eald'narche returns with his Lost Chapter. He does return with his Lost Chapter and his limited weapon with level 80 and his LD boards. Of course, he did get his LD boards rework early in Japan. When he comes back with his burst weapon, he did get a slight tuning pass towards his LD boards. We got that early, making him a little bit more viable than he would have been in the Japanese timeline. So, Kreese, tell us what Eald'narche got, and then Infamous Element is going to serenade us with a little Eald'narche lore.
Sure. So what Eald'narche got was just his LD. His base kit was not touched. As far as I know, this means his Brave plus, his HP plus have not changed. His EX ability, his skill 1, skill 2, his AA are all still the same. Whether you remember how to use him is a different story. His LD is the new thing. His LD ability is Exceed Lance. A couple things to note about Exceed Lance is that some of because he did get an LD board rework down the line, some of the things I'm going to mention are part of his LD board. He does get a BT later on. Someone asked in chat. He does get a BT later on,
probably,
and that's when Japan got his LD board rework. We're getting the board rework now instead.
Yeah, his LD cycle will most likely be in July in our time.
Mm-hmm. So his LD ability is Exceed Lance. He gets 3 uses of it. It does get an empowered version after Eald'narche drops exoplates. And the way it works is that it starts with alternating brave hits, then it becomes an AoE brave plus split HP attack. If you use the plus version, it's executed twice. He gets a free ability use after his next turn, and he applies Warp to all targets and Sustenance of Paradise to all targets after using it. Warp is 2 turns. You should all know what Warp is. It's what allows Eald'narche to take free turns right after an enemy attacks or acts. Sustenance for Paradise is a new debuff. It reduces defense further, and it applies a sap effect to the target. If Eald'narche gets the LD boards applied, he also gets a new buff called Exceed Lance, which increases Stolen Brave Overflow, gives him Brave Regen, and increases Brave damage dealt per debuff on the target, which gives him a nice little buff. So those are what he gets. Otherwise, his kit's still the same, but the little perks do improve things. It allows him to have more Brave going into his free turns. It allows him to get more ability uses, which can be especially nice if you, for example, use those free ability uses on his additional ability so that his terror and warp debuffs last longer, which is one of the things that he really is held back on in most cases, because those are the powerhouses of his kit, keeping those debuffs up. But I think that's all I needed to say. I'm going to pass it over to Infamous Element and let him explain how Eald'narche works and talk a little bit about his background.
Okay, the apostrophe brothers. All right. These guys put apostrophes in everything. Their name, where they live. Just look them up. Everything has an apostrophe in it. It's weird. Anyway, as you might not know, they're Zillarts. They were the first race of Vanadil. And I'm not going to go to too much detail. If you guys want further details, you can DM me and I'll tell you. I got a long page here, and I can tell you a bunch of stuff, but I'm just going to kind of break it down. But basically, Eald'narche saw paradise through the mother crystal, and that's why he has that eye patch, because that's what happened to his eye by looking into the mother crystal and seeing paradise. So note to word to you guys, don't look at your mother's paradise.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing happened to me. I went blind for a while.
Oh, man. So that's what happened. Basically, he wanted to get to paradise. He tried to open a portal. Bad things happen. It almost caused the world to explode. And basically, that's where other races came down. And like between Beastmen and new races like Galkas and Mithras and Humes and Elvins. That's how it all began. And then they were frozen into for basically like 10,000 years. They came back. They lied about where they came from. And that's where Cam was taken into Juno, took over Juno, made them prosper. Eald'narche was kind of sitting in the shadows, basically. And basically, Cam was pretty much buttering up everybody because he took a bite afterwards because they were trying to screw everybody at the end. The adventurer, your main character that you play in 11, finds out about all this and what Eald'narche and Cam were up to. You go fight Cam. You defeat him. He dies. Eald'narche says, okay, you're dead. I don't care. He doesn't even care. This is his brother. He doesn't even care. He just let him die. And then he goes up to the portal. Later on down the story, you fight Eald'narche. He's actually... This kind of plays how he plays in DFFOO, where he has the exoplates on. Well, in Final Fantasy XI, you actually fight him like on a... It's like a little tower with plates on it. After you beat him, you go into the second round where he removes all that, and he's actually teleporting everywhere and casting the abilities that you actually see in the game, like Vortex and his other two abilities. And they also have side effects too, like Petrify. And of course, Vortex has Terror as well. And Terror, in that game, if you get hit by Terror, you can't remove it by anything. You have to let it wear off. And you're just stuck there. It sucks. Do you want me to go into detail about how to kind of play him? Or
if you have some experience in playing him, that'd be great.
All right, so I tried a few things with him, and honestly, I actually started with the LD. Now, and it sounds kind of weird to start with the LD with him because you kind of want to save it for your AAs. But what it kind of does, it lets you kind of expend all your skill 2s to then eventually go in to release your exoplates to put Terror on. This lets you just do more damage with him turns and turns because it's going to put the warp debuff without actually expending your exoplates to use his S2. So that's a means of actually doing it. You can use the free skill on your C65 on your next turn if you wanted to. Kind of don't really recommend. I would just save it and just use your S2s. Or you could use it on the AA, and then you can, on your last turn of your AA, go into your exoplate so that way you have 4 turns of Terror. Now, the only thing that kind of sucks with Eald'narche compared to other characters that get free turns is like Lightning, Aranea. When they get a free turn, they can actually use a call ability afterwards on their free turn. They can use an AA. When you use this Eald'narche, an AA ability or a call, it kills your free turn. Just like Realm. She's in the same boat.
Yeah, it's the same with Realm, and they're actually coded differently than pretty much everybody else's free turns.
Yeah, it's so weird. I wish it was kind of like lightnings and stuff.
Yeah.
But
No, but it is important to know that they are coded. Realm and Eald'narche, their free turns are coded differently than everyone else's free turns.
Exactly, yeah. But I mean, still, he's going to get enough free turns. So even if you use your LD to get a free turn on your AA, it's still worth it to use that free turn and lose it to get the extra turns for your debuffs and stuff like that. So it is worth to do that. It's hard to sell Eald'narche. I'm going to tell you this much. It's like selling a ketchup popsicle to a woman with white gloves. All right, he is not for everybody.
I think Inkwelder would have appreciated that analogy.
Or a snow cone to an Eskimo. There's another one for you. He is a really hard sell. But I will say, like, for maybe some veterans or maybe even like new players, if you actually learn his kit, he can help you with a lot of different fights. Yeah. If you learn him really well, he can help you a lot. And I know people don't really like his playstyle. Maybe he doesn't do a lot of damage for you. But even if you have like a small interest, you can actually use your free ticket pool every day, and maybe you might get him and maybe you might not. Maybe you might try him out. Maybe you might like him.
You know, I think, of course, Mino loves Eald'narche, and I don't know how many people who play DFFOO. I mean, there's a lot of people that play DFFOO who have never played any Final Fantasy, or maybe only have played Final Fantasy VII Remake, or maybe 15, more recent Final Fantasies. Maybe they've played a few, earlier ones now that they've started playing. So I'm guessing the number of folks who have played Final Fantasy XI is limited, even among DFFOO players. But we know Mino loves Final Fantasy XI. He loves Eald'narche and Camelot. And even in our kind of private chats, he's been lamenting Eald'narche because it's not that he's not good, because the terror debuff is ridiculous. It is when terror is not resisted, when bosses are not immune to terror, and when they're not immune to all debuffs, which is less and less. They still will be immune to terror from time to time. Terror is a ridiculously powerful debuff, like several other, HP Silence is pretty powerful, Paralyze is powerful, Pyramid is powerful, Sleep is powerful, but I mean, among those, Terror may be the most powerful debuff in the game. It really just knocks opponents down completely. They cannot act if they are targeting Eald'narche. So in that sense, he's really good. In the other sense, I know one of Mino's things is, why bring him compared to any of the other characters I could bring to this fight, even in his own Lufenia? Why bring him when I can just cheese it with this other character or that all thing? So it's definitely not that he's bad, because he's not bad. He's a little bit more of a complicated character to play. I think both the characters we're talking about today are, but
I think the big thing with Eald'narche is that he does cheese fights, and the free turns do build up pretty nicely.
Yeah.
It's just that he's so complicated to play that if you don't play him correctly, you can screw up really, really quickly, and those debuffs fall off at an inopportune time, and all of a sudden, you might have just ruined your 15-minute run.
Yeah, and I think Mistleton brings up a point as chat's kind of talking about, which debuff is the best of those debuffs I talked about. Sleep, Pyramid, even HP Silence, those are like emergency buttons. Like, you hit Sleep to lock down the big AoE attack or the recast ability. Terror can potentially just lock down an enemy. It can kind of put them in stasis for the entire fight if you're really good, if you can really figure out how to do it. So, I mean, that does potentially make it the best of the debuffs, but also it's a little harder to use. So, Arrow, any thoughts on Eald'narche? Eald'narche. Captain Eald'narche.
Man, big fat tip. I did do my free pull, of course. And I got his EX, which I did not have. So, yay, I got something new. But I find his kit kind of boring, and it's just not for me. But getting the reworked boards is cool. I think he got a lot with the reworked boards. We did go into that. So that was nice because, hey, if you are thinking, oh, I want to use Eald'narche later for 2 weeks synergy, well, his first banner, I think, is with Null later. So, hey, if you're a Null fan, you could go pull over there and hopefully maybe you'll knock a BT and, lock in a BT with those pulls. So, always a nice thing to know. Otherwise, I honestly, the kid, he's always been an interesting friend unit in certain fights because if you could take advantage of that terror lock, wow, it's like you get I think you can get like over 20 plus turns easy of the free turns. It just really depends on the fight. I remember abusing it like heck last year at Trey's Chaos. That was fun. Maybe he will be very useful again there because we're going to get back to that fight very soon. And oh boy, is it still going to be as tight of a turn count as ever. So I'm not looking forward to that fight, but I'm hoping there'll be a couple of Eald'narche friends to maybe help me out with that tight turn count. Anyway, you guys are awesome for pulling. If you enjoy this kit, hey, it's not for me, but everybody plays differently. And even though maybe you have to remember with the reworked boards, his viability might be a lot better than it was before because he gets kind of a lot.
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's a big change for him. And he gets like that extra buff for himself, I think. And
every time you do a debuff, he'll get that buff back.
Yeah, it makes him so much better. So he's not going to be playing how like the JP player base would have had to play him because he's just going to be a better character.
Yeah, Mistleton is saying for recent fights, I think using the free skill on S1 may be better because of the short turn counts. In terms of we have a lot of fights recently that are requiring a low number of turn counts, so you have to do the damage. Yeah, so.
Well, see, that's where Eald'narche can actually excel. If there's a lot of targets, if you put warp on every single one of them and just keep them locked onto him, you can get all those free turns and just keep targeting the main boss. Kind of like his Lost Chapter, basically. That's kind of what you want to do. You kind of want to keep the enemies all alive, locked to him, which Celeste is really good at because she's like the best call for him because she can lock all the enemies with both calls.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think this era with the call abilities does really help Eald'narche because you can bring locks as call abilities. So that is really nice.
Yep. It is very nice.
Yeah. Infamous Element, any just general thoughts about any concluding thoughts about Eald'narche before we get into the fight?
Yeah, I guess like the only other thing, like imagine the scene from Rocky where he's hitting that speedball, right? He's hit it repeatedly. Imagine Rocky, that's Eald'narche, and the ball is the boss's cojones. That's what's happening when you bring him. He just totally neuters them completely. And like I said, if you play him right, like putting the warp on multiple targets, you get a ton of free turns. You just HP plus for days. I know a lot of people don't really enjoy that, but that means your two other characters could do whatever the hell they want. And have Squalls can go ham. There you go. And just bring a Aura bot with them.
Master Ken approves. Shout out to 40 the Broadway Saiyan and his sensei, Master Ken. Ameridote. So Lufenia is, I hope you all got that reference. Lufenia is 2 killer bees with an aloof horn. So the aloof horn is the big flying thing, and the killer bees are the 2 little killer bees. The ads next to it. Couple things about this fight. It absorbs Holy and Dark. It is immune to paralysis. Whew, my mouth might start working later tonight. The orb appears at 79% and is canceled at 49%. Gets +1 whenever the enemy is below 10,000 brave, which is pretty easy. Boss cannot be delayed while both ads are alive. Triggers powerful attack if inflicted with lock. So, sorry, Celeste. The recast will kill you. I don't know that we've found you can dodge the recast. It is not a guaranteed hit, so you can dodge the recast. But I'm not sure that we found a way to actually tank it. We were playing around with some options with like Kamari and maybe even some stacking Porum and Porum and Pestle didn't work because it ignores HP damage reduction, I think. So pretty much it's awful. So you don't want the recast ability, the glowing ability. I'm not talking about the orb ability. I'm talking about the normal glowing recast ability, the red flashing light. If that comes out, you're probably dead. So don't let that do it. And when it's under 50% of its HP, it counters elemental attacks unless you paralyze and delay it and you can paralyze it with the Ramuh debuff. So if you have the Ramuh debuff on it before it goes under 50%, then it's not going to, counter elemental attacks, and because it won't be able to act, and it will not resummon the adds. So that's a real nice thing to use. Ramuh, as we talked about last week, Ramuh's now divine level 40, is able to put on that framed paralyze. Boss cannot act. That may be the best debuff in the game, but it's only one turn, and it comes from a summon. So you have to use it in instances like this. This is obviously a kill the boss before it acts, or give it as few turns. I think you can let it act twice before it gets the recast up. So, yeah, and so it does dispel before it uses recast. It doesn't ignore HP reductions, but it dispels. So anyway, I've not figured out a way how to tank the recast ability. If you have, let us know. That would be great. The three major strategies for all of you who are not trying to do big brain things are bring lightning. That's strategy number 1. Bring lightning and make it dead. Strategy number 2 is the way they want you to do it, which is to bring terror, Eald'narche, or HP silence, Arciella, Kefka, for example, and just keep it silenced. Make sure it never gets that recast ability off. The way I approached it was the break, re-break, delay mechanic, and this was before Aranea. I think Aranea would probably actually be really good on this. But I brought Emperor and Paladin Cecil, and Paladin Cecil, it absorbs Holy, so every time Paladin Cecil attacked, the boss would gain a whole bunch of Brave, and then the Emperor would break it with all of his breaks, and then it would delay the boss, continuously delaying with break, re-break. So, yeah, that was huge brain. My huge brain strategy. I brought Paladin Cecil to Holy Absorb. I'm the best. But Aranea will also really do that quite a bit easier than Paladin Cecil, so I'm pretty sure Aranea and Emperor, or even Aranea and quite a few other characters. So you can also stack attack down auras, and tank the recast. So I think Vincent did have a play on here as well. If I go into that, Arrow, how did you approach this fight?
I went with the HP silence route using Arciella. Man, that has wound up being one of the best pulls I didn't know I needed in my roster so far. Thank you, Arciella. Anyway, super tight turn count. Hate it. Super huge HP pull. And basically, it's don't let this boss play because he will punish you with that recast. It's kind of funny. They gave you these like little minion bugs that are kind of like you can kill them over time if you aren't careful. Because, Eald'narche is the featured character, and you want him to get as many turns as he can with the terror lock, so that even if the bugs act, you don't even have to attack the bugs. You just attack the main boss. But, I mean, I know the boss can heal them and stuff, but he isn't going to do that if he's, not acting in the first place. I don't know. It's such a weird fight for Eald'narche himself. I don't know if he's really the best character for his own battle. It's kind of weird.
He is not. He is so not.
It's so weird. And I'm not saying he's a bad character. Like, no, I'm just saying that this is one of those weird times where he is not the ideal.
He is on the most used on the Call to Arms. Again, that's Call to Arms, DissidiaFFOO.com, our friend Macnol. You can submit your run videos there, and it collects all of them, so you can share it to other people, get people watching your videos, but also help the community. So DissidiaFFOO, Call to Arms. He is Eald'narche's number 5 on the most used on his Lufenia. Currently, there are how many videos here? Currently, there are 72 videos. And he is Lightning, the most used. Aerith, second. Squall, third. Squall's doing great damage on this one. Arciella. Oh, I use Squall as well. Squall, Paladin, Cecil, Emperor was my team. Arciella and Eald'narche is 5. So,
yeah. And guys, like, this boss has so much HP, it's ridiculous. If you look at that call to everybody just about, if they're not using any synergy, use the BT. And if they used Aerith as their synergy character, they still use the BT. Just to kind of give you an idea of how much health this boss has. Thankfully, guys, as always, I want to remind you, this one is permanent. And if the fight's not doable for you right now, just come back later. We're going to get amazing damage dealers, delayers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you won't need to, like, worry about this fight's tight turn count with its huge HP pool down the line. Or, of course, Aranea is probably going to do some pretty dang amazing work on this boss and really could help you out. So if you haven't beaten it yet, but you got Aranea and you got her LD, maybe then go give it another shot using her in your party and swapping out somebody else who wasn't so useful.
You can wait till Terra and Yang, Pikachu. You can just wait. You can wait 3 months from now and just destroy it. Auto battle it.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. And I saw somebody. I don't even know how this popped up on my feed, but I did see somebody doing the Eald'narche Lufenia with later down the line with Tifa. So, that's probably a really good character too when she gets her LD. Anyway, so this is one of those things where, yes, it's mechanically speaking, this fight is not that bad. It's just that it's drawn out in the sense of its HP pool and like the tight turn count. So it's like, oh, I got only 75 turns. And that's what you're worrying about more than the actual fight in front of you, like with the enemies. I don't know. I'm not a fan of these types of fights. But I understand that, they're trying to sell Eald'narche and they're trying to sell Emperor and they are trying to show you how off-turn damage and free turn actions really add up and helping you reach victory in this cycle. So I get it. Don't have to love it, but I'm going to be okay moving on from this cycle and hopefully into a different set of style of fights going forward into the next 2-week cycle. Anyway, that's all my thoughts. I'm going to pass it over to whoever else still wants to take a crack at it.
Yeah, Infamous, do you what was your take on this fight?
Okay, so I took a 15 CP Cyan and unfortunately could not complete it. Shout out to Nick Lord.
Yeah, sorry, Nick.
No, seriously, I took obviously Eald'narche, Aerith, and Squall. Yeah. To have a picture here, this said 51 turns, so
yeah,
pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah,
that's not bad.
No, that's pretty good. Yeah.
Basically, Squall was just kind of like to kill the ads every once in a
while
to
do the damage.
Do the damage mainly, but and then I was just to lock them down and Aerith with her HP plus. That's basically the HP up damage, basically, and she did really well. I like using Aerith now. She really has surprised me a lot.
Really actually, I have to admit, she does play a little bit better than my first impression of her. Even though it's weird just having a character that, well, we'll get into the next fight because I used her in the next fight, and I didn't use any of her skills. It just feels weird.
Yeah, you never really
feels weird to never use skill 1 or skill 2 in an entire fight. But whatever. All right, well, let's move from Ghosts of the Past to Commodores of the Sky. Remember, folks, this is Aranea's event. Aranea was a GL first, a global first character, so we got her earlier than the JP community got her. So this is her actual event. This is not her lost chapter. That's why it looks and feels, and it is an actual event. Yep. This is the first time, technically, we're seeing Aranea in all of her glory. She doesn't get a rework. She does get level 80 and boards, and she gets an LD. So, Kreese.
Quote unquote first time.
Yes. What did Aranea get?
The changes that most people will notice are that she got her boards, her character boards all together because she did not have any character boards before this. She got an LD, she got LD boards, and those produce some pretty notable changes to the way she plays. First of all, I'll mention what her LD does and the changes that come with it. Her LD ability is Vermilion Assault. It is an AoE Brave plus HP attack that is executed twice. Along with that, she gets a free ability use on her next turn. She gets 4 turns of Overclock, regardless on whether it's Vermilion Assault or Vermilion Assault Plus. It becomes plus if she already has Overclock active. And she also gets a new overhead buff called Magitech Lance. Magitech Lance increases her int brave, increases her attack, but the big thing it does is makes it so that she will always unbreak her targets whenever she attacks them, which is huge for her because if you remember, the way she gets overclock is by breaking a target when she does not have overclock active. The other thing I noted is that she now has the ability to get overclock by using Brave Plus or HP Plus, and breaking a target with those while she is not an overclock. I do not believe she had that before, correct?
That is correct.
Those
that
are
is
new.
Yes.
So now she does not need to use ability uses to refresh overclock. Those 2 changes are pretty big for her. But other than that, her kit is pretty much the same as it was before. She does a lot of AoE damage between High Wind and Air Superiority. She can guarantee crits with her Vital Crusher debuff. However, it's still a very short duration with 2 turns. She wants to maintain overclock as much as possible. So she's always using the plus versions of her abilities, and she has access to her better versions of her Brave Plus and HP Plus abilities, and the better versions of her Skill 1, Skill 2, and EX. So she plays very similarly to the way she did before. Just it's a lot easier for her to get back into overclock. It's a lot easier for her to do everything. And she'll always be breaking targets, which means she'll be constantly doing break delays as long as enemies are not immune to break delay, basically. That said, she is just a ranged attacker, delayer. Her big gimmick that she brings to the party is allowing everyone to crit and amplifying crit damage. Again, it's tied to a very short duration buff, so very, very fast targets. That will burn fast. You got to be careful with that. But other than that, she's very strong. I think that's all I have to say for her. I did pull for her LD. I did get it. I have not had a lot of time to play with her kit yet with the changes. She is a pure damage dealer. She gets her multiple HP damage dumps by taking free turns, a lot like Lightning does. Her free turns are not always active because it comes from her 3-turn buff that she gets from her EX. Keep that in mind. But she has, from what I've been able to tell, pretty much guaranteed uptime, or like 75% to 90% uptime of it, because she wants to use abilities pretty often right now, unless she knows she's going to be in this for fights for the long haul. So with that, I will pass it over to Infamous Element. Have you had any time to play with Aranea? Did you pull for her? What are your thoughts on the kit so far?
All right, so I did pull for her. I did get her. I only got to play her once for her event, just to do the fight, and it only took one go. I kind of already knew how she kind of played because I've seen what she did before. But basically, man, do you remember the old days though of like chaos? You get ready for going to bed, and you pick your Aranea, and you slap 2 other characters. You put your phone on your pillow. You wake up the next morning, and you got a chaos complete. Well, it's not the case anymore, but she's still really, really good, and yeah, I think she's great. She don't have to be like overpowered like she was before, which is good because we do not need that again. Thank God. And she's solid, especially with the Vital Crusher. It helps a lot of other characters on top of other brave increases. You could hit really, really hard. So I'll pass on to the next person.
Yeah, Arrow, what are your thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, she's still doing those usual Aranea things we know from before, but now probably a lot more balanced. I have to agree with everybody on that. I think it hasn't been mentioned too much, but when you're team building with her now, you may want to pair her. She pairs extremely well, potentially with other speedy characters, other fellow delayers. Why not? And of course, you may be able to fit her into certain launch strategies because, she has that Vital Crusher debuff, which is really boosting brave damage for everybody. And of course, delay is very nice when setting up launches. Okay, her call does inflict Vital Crusher on one target. This you guys know how good Vital Crusher is. You're going to use that sucker before you probably start doing all your summoning and all your bursting and all that other good stuff. Yes, I know it's only one target, but sometimes that's all you need to really max out your damage because you can still hit you do a multi-hitting attack and you're slamming that one guy with that Vital Crusher debuff with a bunch of brave damage and filling up that brave. Real nice to get a full bat attack off. Great. I love it. And of course, I really want to bring this up. Understanding break orders is going to matter to get the most advantage and, turn advantage and everything else out of her kit. And I know some of you guys have been talking about this and are thinking, isn't that something everyone already knows? Oh my gosh, guys, my poor dears. You should have probably learned better by now, especially when you play or see other fellow Araneas in co-op. People really underestimate how poorly some understand things like break order or tempo in this game. And by the way, I want to stress this. There's nothing wrong with being a casual player, but to win Lufenias and, the highest difficulty tiers as they come along, it definitely does help to have some deeper understanding of game mechanics like this and to understand when to push your characters to do lots of skills, lots of spam, lots of damage in a fight, and when to maybe hold back just for a moment and maybe actually press that Brave Plus button. I know, crazy, right? So anyway, so Aranea is a strong character, and if you understand these game mechanics, of course, she will benefit you and your Lufenia battles. And she's not going, but Aranea is no longer the instant win character she was for the Chaos era. And to get the most out of her in the various types of comps she will work well with, you will need, as usual, very good team building skills and play around the goals and roles of your team. She alone will no longer carry you. That's pretty much it. I had to talk about this. And again, if you are a casual player, and please don't be offended, this is more for those who are trying to play into higher difficulties and struggling. Please learn about break order. I think it's even in Mog's gym, guys. This is one of the first things they tried to teach us in this game. So that's my thoughts. Back to you, Mark.
Yeah, I love Aranea. She's so pretty, and she's so pretty. And I do like her a lot. It is amazing how bad people think she is because of how bad people played her in the past. Because in the Chaos era, when we got her early, you didn't have to play her well. You just had to press buttons, and then she did damage, and then you won because she was so overtuned damage-wise. You didn't really have to understand her kit. Now you kind of have to understand her kit, but if you understand her kit, she's actually quite powerful. I actually still think she's probably a little overtuned to her contemporary characters this month. Like, I think she's actually probably one of the better characters this month, given the characters that we have, because what she's doing to the party, what she's giving to the party because of Vital Crusher, because of the extensive damage she's doing and the ridiculous delays that she's doing, constantly being able to break and re-break. The most confusing thing in terms of break order is when you can't see the enemies, when you've broken them so much that they're off the screen and you forget which one you broke last. So you have to try to remember which order to break them in. I think that's the most. So you have to take notes, and that's a lot of work. People aren't going to do that, obviously. But she's exceptionally powerful. And she's not very difficult to play. The big thing people have to realize is when you don't have overclock, you can't get overclock back with the plus abilities, so you need to make sure that you have an ability that can give her overclock back when she doesn't have it, and that's really not that difficult. Either you can use her Brave or HP plus, or basically you can just usually wait for her EX to do and do her non-plus version of the EX. It's not that big of a deal to use the non-plus version of the EX, get the 4 turns, I think, of overclock at that point, or if you can put the EX up, get the plus version extended by 2 turns is nice as well. So, and you can use your free actions from your LD to use the AA and give you, a few more turns if you need of overclock. So it's really not that big of a big deal. So yeah. So I think she's still getting a bad rap, because it's not just press buttons win. You actually have to understand the break order. You have to understand, yes, she does single target delays on her skill 2 and on her HP plus and her LD and her EX. Her EX may do both because that's AoE. But so, she's doing single target delays on her skills and her Brave plus. But, you're still stacking up a lot of delays over the course of time, and doing a lot of splash damage. Her and Squall's burst, which is certainly not the best burst at all, but her and Squall really synergize well because she does tons of splash damage and Squall does tons of splash damage, and his burst gives splash damage to everybody. So it's really nice. So she's awesome, and don't listen to people who are like, if you like Aranea because she's awesome, you should get her. She's so pretty, and you should buy her costume, and you should let Squex know that she should get LD board reworks soon and a burst weapon. So let Squex Joshua know that she should do that.
And let's be honest, you probably pulled for worse DPS characters.
Yeah.
Can I add something too, real quick?
Please.
So, from what I could tell, it seems like when you want to make a team comp with Aranea, you kind of want to make an aggressive type of team, because that's where she'll thrive in, because you want to be using her abilities constantly.
Yeah.
That's the way you got her EX up, her overclock. Everybody's hitting hard because Vital Crush is up more. So just consider that when you're making a team with her. If you're bringing a slower team and you have to use her HP plus so often, it's going to be a little bit tougher for her to keep, free turns on her with her EX buff.
Yes, team building is important, people. Regardless of who you're using, you should probably learn how to team build. Maybe someday somebody will make some videos about that and tell you how to do that better than you do it, because you might suck at it. So that would be something good. So build better teams. Go on the call to arms, DissidiaFFOO.com. Hey, Tonberry Troupe has some notes on their infographics about team synergy, so you can check that out as well. The Lufenia, there's co-op. There's no refined spheres for this, but there's going to be a lot of spinning. So enjoy the spinning. Or actually, if you just spam LD, I thought the LD was also a spin move. I thought when that, for in my mind, when it got announced, when the JP version of the game got Aranea, I could have sworn that her LD was just another spin, but that must have been like a meme, because it's not. It's actually a whole different animation. It's really cool. So I'm disappointed in the meme, because I took the meme seriously, and it was not. So the Lufenia is Superior Knights. Very fun. You fight 2 of them. They absorb all elements except lightning. They are immune to paralyze and also immune to lightning resist down, which we also refer to as imperil. The orb is around at 100% and disappears at 79%, and then comes back at 50% of their health and goes down to 0. It stays for the rest of the battle. It gets +2 when the enemy takes critical damage. Well, Aranea, of course, gives everybody the ability to do critical damage, so that's why that is. But there are many different ways to do critical damage. Of course, if you break a target or attack a broken target, that is a critical hit. There are other ways to do it as well. They have Brave Damage Resist and Brave Gain Down, which is fairly common for bosses these days. So they take less Brave damage and they prevent you from gaining Brave. It's pretty normal. They have 3 different shield auras. These are not shield buffs. They're not frame buffs. They're auras. The first is called Superior Shield, and it is a white aura. Prevents break until critical damage is taken, gives them attack up, etc. Superior Shield Plus is a yellow aura, gives them more attack and brave resist. The white aura, I think, is like 10% brave resist. The yellow aura is 50% brave resist. And then Superior Shield Plus Plus is a red aura and gives them even more attack and brave resist. And I think that's 80% or 90%. And then they also have this ability called Energy Charge, which if they have that, they cannot be delayed, and it is deleted until they are, I think, broken, is that. So if you let them cast one of their shields before they get under 80%, so before the Lufenia orbs go, they will not be able to get into the energy charge and then not be able to be delayed. So if you want to delay them, you might want to give them at least 2 actions to let them use their shields, and then once you get them past 80% of their health, you will be able to delay them. If you start delaying them right away and never give them an action, they will not be able to be delayed or deleted, so the only way you will be able to delay them is by break and re-break, which of course Aranea Lightning do very, very well, but Aranea also delays targets. Emperor delays targets. So I would encourage, if you're going to use Emperor Aranea or even Lightning, very truthfully, let them have 2 actions that's not going to kill anybody, and then go at them to just make your life a little bit easier. So I brought Aranea, Emperor, and Aerith, stacked up frame debuffs. I actually switched out Aerith for Friend Emperor, which was probably stupid because I wasn't doing very good damage. And at the end of my fight, Emperor had never used a skill 1 or skill 2. Aerith had never used skill 1 or skill 2, and Aranea had used all of her skills, except only used 2 of her LDs. So I had 2 Aranea LDs. I don't think I used either of her AAs. I forgot to use her LD call, which was Hope, because Hope has buff extension. Buff extension seems to be something nice for Aranea. So didn't use that, but but I stacked it pretty high with Aranea's debuff and Jack's debuff and Aerith's debuff and 3 Emperor traps. I don't think I've ever actually used Emperor's burst trapped, or I've even had it available to me to be used once I did it. So maybe it's good. I don't even know what it does, very truthfully. But that was my team. I let them have 2 actions, let them pass their shields, and then they did not act again. So I don't know if they have other mechanics. I assume they do, and you don't want them to act because that's the whole thing. So, Arrow, how did you approach this?
I went with the airlines of Cloud, Kais, and Rim. My girl, she's back for her 4th time. I have an Emperor friend as well, but this is probably going to be one of my last good times to run Rim. But you never know. Maybe there's going to be the right fight, and I can just keep swapping turns to the really good character, and we'll see. But Rim is back. I cannot seem to get a recording where I did it, where I didn't use Cloudburst, but I can't seem to get a recording of it. I promise you guys you can do it without using the Cloudburst, though. So even crazier. So keeping in theme with the rest of this cycle, denial of enemy turns will help you greatly in dishing out the necessary damage to win. Because as these guys keep taking turns and they change their little shield colors from like the white to yellow to red, they're taking less and less brave damage, and they're getting more and more defense, I believe, or something, or more attack. I don't remember exactly. But anyway, let's see. This fight is make sure you are pretty much, after you get those 2 first turns in and they activate Phalanx, try to front load your damage. It kind of reminds me again of that Alexander fight where you want to, the Alexander Chaos fight, where you want to get in as much damage as you can before they act too many times. And hopefully by the time you get them under 80%, they'll be like maybe on the yellow shield, and then you just go crazy and try to get as much damage in as you can. Paralyze them with your Ramu summon, because that's probably the summon you're bringing, guys. Let's be real, because
that is the summon you should bring. Yeah.
Yeah. And they actually can be paralyzed from that paralyze, unlike other generic paralyzes. Yay. So that'll give you some extra breathing room. And one thing, I guess the HP attacks aren't too scary. Just make sure when they do use charge energy that you do break them one time, because otherwise they'll follow up with the what's the name of that skill? Gosh, can't think of it. It's like Laser Shield plus plus. If they do Laser Shield plus plus, that's going to dispel all your buffs. They're going to gain some Brave before they unleash the attack, and they're going to kill your party member unless they have Last Stand. Like, that's just what's going to happen. So don't do that. Make sure you shave. And one other thing, I feel like in the Chaos last year, when they had the superior shields in the yellow and red form, I never could freaking break those guys. It feels like it's easier in this Lufenia and in the Chaos this year to break them. I don't know if it's just because of the characters I was using before, but I remember never being able to break the guys before, it felt like. And I used like Leon and some other characters. I remember Leon being used last year, but they didn't have the dark absorb then. Okay, in the Chaos last year with the Global First event. But it just feels like it's easier to break them now, and in the red and yellow stances. And even though it's not always, you generally, as long as you keep wailing attacks on them, eventually you're going to break them. But I don't remember that from last year in the Chaos. I swear that's not how it worked. You just outright were stuck leaving them at one Brave the whole time. If you guys remember that differently, please tell me. But that's pretty much my thoughts. And has everybody else gone, I think, Mark?
Yeah, Yoshi Pasta says you couldn't break them during the GL first event.
You couldn't break them. I'm not crazy. Thank you, Yoshi Pasta. All right. Well, Mark, I'm going to send it back your way.
Well, I mean, I didn't tell you what I used.
Infamous, what did you do?
Go ahead.
So I did it in one shot, surprisingly. I always do like a test run usually, but it actually worked. I brought the team of rebreaks of Aranea, Aerith, and Lightning. And I did Arrow's favorite mechanic where you don't give the boss any turns. So that's what happened with that. And I took Emperor as a friend unit and swapped out Aranea, used his burst effect for Lightning's burst effect. And Mark is right. They do get a frame turn where you can't delay them anymore. But you do enough rebreaks, they'll never get a turn anyway. I did it in 39 turns, and it was easy. Like I said, they never got a turn. And basically, you could just spam Lightning's LD when it's like the last turn of Emperor's friend unit of his burst. And you're just constantly taking turns, and they never get any. It was great.
So, good luck on all that. Of course, you can join our Discord, tccpodcast.com for all of our links, or you can check out in all the links below, the description below. If you're having trouble with this or any of the fights, and we're happy to help if you're still working on Dimensions End Entropy or Dimensions End Transcendence. There's plenty of people in our help strategy section, our channel, that would be more than happy to help you with those kind of things, or even run them and kind of help watch you go through it as well.
I'm sorry, Mike. I forgot to tell you.
Please.
I actually use Bahamut Summon since the recent change of getting extra Brave from it now. So that's what I use for my summon. Gave a decent amount of Brave for having. I just wanted to test it out, and it actually worked pretty decently. So yeah,
that is another good option. Non-elemental damage also would work. Yeah, that is good. Good reminder. Yes, John Beaumont is saying Gladio Zaz combo is fun too. But yeah, Gladio can work in this fight as well. Again, TonberryTroupe.com. You can go into all of those beautiful infographics and check out the characters for yourself. DissidiaDB, our friend Rem, does that as well. You can check out character details, and Macnol, DissidiaInfo.com for all the fight information. And make sure that if you do record your fights, submit them to the Call to Arms so that other people can see that you're creative and you have something to add to the community. If you're like, hey, well, why didn't no one do this? Well, record it and submit it to the Call to Arms, because if no one else has done it, then we're waiting for you to do it. Yeah, always like more ingenuity in that way. Well, hey, Chris, do you want to have a couple of questions tonight?
Sure, we can answer a couple of questions. Just give me a sec to pull some up.
Oh, while you're doing that, let me go to the podcast polls, which I forgot to talk about. Our friend Quetzalma of MateriaBot fame. You can check out and support MateriaBot. It's a great bot for all of the Discord servers, DFFOO-related bot. If you want to check out the polls, and if you have your own Discord server that has DFFOO stuff, you can add the DFFOO polls, and across 12 servers on the Eald'narche banner. Let me update it. 0 people willing to pity Emperor's BT, 7 people willing to pity Eald'narche, 4 using tickets, 4 using gems, 90 using tickets, 80 skipping, and Aranea. Whoa, 0 people willing to pity Emperor's Burst, 16 going to pity the LD, 4 using gems, 106 tickets, and 43 people that were lying to themselves. And so I'm joking, skipping. Yeah, but there's a lot of different ways to beat these 2 fights. They're not the easiest fights because they encourage you to not fight the boss. But there are also quite a few different ways to go about them. So check that out as well. All right, Chris, do you have a question for us?
Sure. A couple of these are a few weeks old, but we'll go through them in sequential order or in chronological order from the oldest first. So Zoe asks, what characters do you wish had more screen time in their respective games? I guess I'll start first. HaateXIII kind of faded to the background after the beginning of Disc 2. Right after Meteor fell, you don't see HaateXIII anymore. So he helps Tifa and Barrett escape Junon, and that's the last you see of him in the game at all, I think. Maybe 1 or 2 scenes, but otherwise he's gone. Another character I think of a lot who kind of disappears after a certain point is Vincent from Final Fantasy VII, but that's because he's also a secret character, quote unquote.
Yeah, he wasn't even on the first disc.
He was on the first disc. It was on the first disc. You can unlock him the first time you go to Nibelheim.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that still disc 1?
That's disc 1.
It's a long game.
Disc 1 is everything up until Aerith dies.
It's a long game. Oh, good times.
So those are, I guess, those are the first 2 answers that come to mind. Infamous, do you have an answer for this?
That's easy. That's Beatrix. Need more.
Oh, that's a good answer.
That is a good
Need
answer.
more of her everywhere, please.
That is a good answer. Arrow?
I was gonna say Amaran. I feel like you don't really get to know him in FF9. Like, I understood it greatly, the motivations of everyone else. I really wanted to know more about Amaranth, though. Just because I really wish there was just a little more time with Leon in FF2, especially because you want to know what led up to him, becoming the original Dark Knight. Like, it happens off screen. That's the worst feels. It's just like, man, what made you wind up choosing to help the Emperor in the end? You know, like, that never got answered. Hey, Specs, answer that in a future remake if you ever should make one of FF2. Anyway, that's my answer.
I do agree with you. I think for Amarant at least, but I think part of that's because Amarant's a very simple character, at least the way he was written. But I do agree with you on Amarant.
Yeah, Zerathi, spoilers for those of you who have only played Final Fantasy VII Remake. Eris does die in Final Fantasy VII.
It's a 24-year-old game. Spoilers are kind of well.
She may not die in the remake version. You know, who knows?
In the original, she dies. Sorry,
it's up in the air, so it's not necessarily a spoiler. We don't know what's gonna. Maybe Tifa dies. I don't know. Maybe Cloud dies, and Tifa becomes the main character. So that'd be great. I'd like that. I definitely need more Aranea. I think she should get her own game. And there was the DLC, which is great, but definitely need, and more Kistis. We always need more Kistis. She was pretty heavy. You know, you got to use her a couple times early on, but yeah, I guess Vincent did get his own game. It was a great. I'm like the only person that likes Sturgis Cerberus.
It was an awful game. It controlled terribly.
So good. Better than, the original Resident Evil. Yeah, no, it's not a great game.
It was a terrible game.
At least the camera pointed the right direction. That's all I have to say about that. I enjoyed Dirge of Cerberus. And I enjoyed Dirge from the original Clone Wars Gendy micro series. So different character, but just general dirges. Dirges are just good. Playing on the organ, a nice funeral dirge. Who doesn't like that? Yeah, next question.
Necklord asks, the main theme of Final Fantasy XIII 2 is called Wish. What's your DFFOO wish for this upcoming month? I am going to wish that I get Y'shtola BT without having to pity it, because I'm not going to pity it, but I will pull. I am going to pity her LD. So fingers crossed I get her BT somewhere along the way.
Infamous?
Infamous?
That's a tough one. Something to wish for. So it has to be like a weapon?
No.
Whatever. It's
It
Necklord.
just says wish. It was
It's
Necklord
Necklord.
didn't really
Could be
imply
anything.
anything. I just decided to go with Y'shtola BT.
Could be anything.
Could be anything.
Well, this has probably like been said like a million times, but I would like a new tactics character, please. Orlando, please. I would love him in this game.
We all know that's not going to happen.
All right, Squex Joshua, you heard it. Squex Crystal, make it happen. I feel like Squex Crystal will listen to us. Hear the people. Arrow, what's your default wish?
Pikachu's wishing for a Sarah rework.
Oh yeah, well,
Keep dreaming.
That's
Dreaming, yeah. That one was
some
definitely-
dreams just won't come true.
Before I answer, I do want to address Retro Gamer Dad. I like tactics, but I am not a big TG Sid guy kind of girl. Anyway, so my favorite that if I want for the next FFT character is Mustadio, because I would love some character interaction between Balthier and Mustadio, considering they have similar last names. So maybe there's some sort of like ancestral connection. That would be super cool. I would love that. But that's not my wish. Okay. My wish would be for a surprise global first LD, somebody interesting that isn't Sarah and her rework, and that isn't somebody lame like Seymour. I know I'm gonna get some crap from Kets later on that. That would be a really cool surprise if we got a global first LD announcement before the end of the month on the next stream. There we go. I'm passing it back over to anyone else who hasn't answered.
My wish is for 49 of 50 subs before Waka's banner, so I don't have to pull on Waka.
What if we get 50 subs while the banner is still up?
I said before. I did.
Did you?
I did say before.
You did specify.
So
okay.
you have
okay.
until April 23rd. UTC 2 a.m. UTC time. I did say before.
Okay.
We are. That is a good question, Illuminasa. We are at, as of today, which is just when we started. Hold on. We are at 13 subs.
I think we got some subs while we were going though.
I said. To be fair, Mistleton, I said I would use gems and I will pity if we get 50 subs. So. I'm not just gonna throw 5,000 gems and be done. If we do get 50 subs by the 23rd, I will use gems to pity. That is, I'm a man of my word. That is the deal. So, but if I get 49 subs, hell, I'm not gonna pull. That's for sure. All right. Next question. Got a couple
I don't know if this one was answered or not. Jovial Roger asks. Joshua mentioned that we would be getting 11 free pull banners, and they only listed 10.
Yeah, Sarah.
What do you think the 11th will be? It'll probably be the Sarah banner, right? It's a pretty straightforward one. Did we already answer that one in a previous?
Yeah, we
week?
may have already answered it, but obviously, yeah, we assume that is Sarah, unless they swap Sarah out for a GL first LD. So
you can delete Sarah's banner and just refresh Eald'narche's multi-pull. There you go.
Yeah, it's just right. It's just another free. Like no one pulled on Eald'narche, so here's another free pull. Take it. Resets the G tokens though.
Okay. JD Terraforce asks, what are the hosts going to use their new Auto Plus team for their new Auto Plus teams for Crystal level? Oh, so what are the hosts going to use Auto Plus for grinding? Like, do they have anything design, or do they have any ideas for what they will use Auto Plus for? I don't use Auto Plus at all, so I guess I will not be using it. I didn't even use Auto. I always manually did everything. Infamous Element, have you been using Auto Plus for anything, and what have you been using it for?
Okay, so I have used Auto and Auto Plus for different things. So I have used Auto Plus for just the Cactar with was it Kurasame, what's her name? Charlotta and Kuja, and they just like destroy that thing in like two to three
That's a good
turns.
idea.
And on Auto Plus, so you don't have to worry about anything. And then for Auto, I just still use what Inkwelder made a good video about this a long time ago with Squall with his HP Plus.
Mhm.
But you have to take his LD board passive off, and you have Rosa and Lilith in your party, and Squall's going to go first every time. And his HP Plus can clear tokens and all of the crystal farming for you.
So I auto plussed all of Divine Ramu. I didn't do anything during that entire grind. I auto plussed that entire fight.
Who did you use for that?
Synergy, Celeste, Emperor, and somebody else. Who else was Synergy? I didn't have Aerith. It was before Aerith. Somebody help me out here. It was
Yuffie for it, or did you use Lulu or Selfie?
It wasn't Lulu. Maybe Selfie.
Yuffie?
Oh yeah, Yuffie. Thank you. Emperor, Celeste, and Yuffie. Yeah, I autoed the entire thing. I did not use Selfie. I use Yuffie as my solo crystal World of Illusion and crystal farm. Yuffie just burns through it. She's the fastest person to auto plus. You take all of her skills off, but her skill 2, and it takes like 18 seconds to clear all of the crystal farming and all of the World of Illusions. So if you're gonna farm, I mean, she's the best. Palom's kind of second closest to that. But yeah, Yuffie is the fastest to auto farm plus. Kayn is good as well there. Inkwelder on Tonberry Troupe did a nice little workup using the numbers there. But if you're doing hard content, so more difficult content, and you want a better team, my current auto my current auto farming team is apparently Squall, Beltier, and Celeste. I'm not really sure why. That's just who happens to be my like harder level, Cosmos level auto farm team. So, but everything else, yeah, Palom can kill the flower cactors in one shot. Yuffie cannot, so she takes 2 actions, which is usually not terrible. So, Arrow.
I am a Palom grinder with the crystals, and yes, I have been using those 30-minute times 2 books when I have time, and I'll just let Palom kind of do his thing for half an hour, especially with the new features now where you don't have to select the support or anything, and you just keep hitting retry. Great stuff. But for World of Illusions Carbuncle treasures, I actually turn off Auto Plus and still stick to regular Auto and use the twins there. I'm talking World of Final Fantasy Twins. That HP Plus, guys, is super fast. And they're just going to spam that the whole time, and you're going to get a bazillion orbs. I wind up with like easy over 4,000 every time I just decide to dump a 15-minute book into that. Great. Love it. So that's my go-to for that. And then just for regular World of Illusions, I go back, when I'm doing arts, I'll just go back and use Palom. I don't know. I have Yuffie, but I just use Palom because he's already set, and I don't want 2 different teams for that. So there you go. That's my choices. And Kayn, if you are a newer player, you can get Kayn's 15 CP, which is the AoE attack, or the AoE splash damage attack. So that's the budget answer, and he's still very, very fast as well. All right, I'm done answering. Back to you, Mark.
Let's do one more. Crease.
Sism asked, and this was a while ago. Remember, it was like a week ago now. Sism asked, are we in Lufenia garbage time since we can bring Leo to the most recent Lufenia? And I don't remember the context of this anymore, but they did ask this.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we're in. I don't know that there is a Lufenia garbage time, but we are definitely able to generally bring more characters. That being said, the Lufenia orbs always create some difficulty when it comes to just bringing the same teams over and over again. But I think you're finding you're being able to be a little bit more open with your team construction, bring a few other characters along the way. So don't necessarily think it's, you can bring anybody you want. No, you still have to build around the orb and build around the mechanics. And there are going to be some fights that are more challenging than others depending on your teams. But at the end of the day, you can often bring, carry some character along the ride if you have a couple other powerful characters enough. And so in that sense, yes. Arrow?
No, we're definitely not in a garbage time. Guys, this was a single target boss fight that asked for delays. Leo just happened to help meet the mechanics of that fight. If you didn't pull Emperor or didn't want to use Emperor for the challenge, or heck, you might have, and still brought Leo anyway, because why not? He could go forever on that fight. Especially if you brought something like Onion in that main party too. Holy crap. That guy's never gonna run out of skills. And I don't know. There's these very occasional times where we can still bring certain EX plus characters to help us with the orbs. I just used Rim. Like, she came back as Synergy, guys, and I used her again for Lufenia. This was my 4th time doing it. It just really depends on the fight as to whether how you will be able to take that character or not. Sometimes they're very good for the orb, or they just help counter something in the fight so well that you can maybe potentially, I don't like saying the word, but carry them, I guess, through the battle to assist you. And that's where, like, having the wide roster can come in handy from time to time. This isn't going to be common for everybody. Most people want to play newer characters, but if you're somebody who is struggling on a fight or just wanting to try something creative, it's nice to be able to use these older characters. It really is, because some of these characters still don't have LDs. Like, we're still waiting for them. And to have the chance to use somebody you enjoy again, that makes me happy, and I hope it makes you happy when you have the opportunity presented to you. Back to you, Mark.
Well, thank you all. Of course, you can ask your questions on our Discord. Appreciate all of you doing that. Take your time. Do check out our Discord. Thank you all for your support. Again, if you want to support us, if you're watching on YouTube, you can like, sub, ring the bell for notifications. If you're on Twitch, you can give us a Twitch Prime sub or a Tier 1 sub or gift a sub if you want to help the community. We do appreciate that. You can follow us on Twitch as well. And if you listen to us on a podcast app, please like us on that app and give us a review. That does help the podcast grow. Looking ahead, we have the Heretic event, Terrible Mechanical Tentacles. Oh, are those stupid Steam counts? Oh, God. I hate those. Yep. Y'shtola's Burst Weapon and LD are coming. We don't know when Sarah will be, but she came with a campaign. We don't know what's going to happen. She has not been announced technically. We know there will be something else. Trey is on the 19th. And Bosch Rush with Waka 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 on the 23rd. Remember, you give me 50 subs total by the 23rd, and I will pull on Waka, and I'll be upset about it. And so that's going to be a fun video. You can check out Crease, Arrow, Laylee on YouTube. Crease Twitches sometimes as well. Infamous Element, how can we get a hold of you?
Mainly, you can find me on TCC Discord, but you can also find me on YouTube, Infamous Element. And like I said, I will be returning to streaming again. I'm taking a little break right now, so...
There's nothing wrong with that. And thank you for being on the show. It was great to have you. Appreciate your Final Fantasy XI lore. And always good to have someone on when we are not pulling for a character. And so appreciate your Eald'narche gameplay wisdom as well. And so, hey, we'll have you on again someday.
No problem. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you to all of you who are listening. You make it so great. Thank you for all of you who are live on Twitch with us. Again, it's always Thursday night, 8 p.m. Central Daylight Time. If you want to be live, it does help. You can chat with us. Remember, use your chat points to break in with a question and all of that kind of good stuff. Thank you to our whole group, all of our team, all their links, all of their names are available in the description below. This has been episode 147 of the Crystal Chronicles, recorded on April 8th, 2021 for Arrow, Crease, myself, and Infamous Element. Best of luck to all of you. May your Araneas spin forever, and may your Y'shtola pulls be very, very short and painless. Until next week, friends, we'll see you later. Goodbye.